I'm Sarah Nelson and I'm a writer and theatre maker. I also do some directing and quite a lot of teaching. I'm currently associate writer for Oldham Theatre Workshop and I'm one of the BBC Writers' Room's Northern Voices for 2020. I fell in love with theatre really at school. I did GCSE drama, A-level theatre studies. I went down to London to do a degree at Central School of Speech and Drama. And then I became a teacher and I taught drama for 7 years in a secondary school before leaving really to pursue sort of the other sides of my passion. So I wanted to develop my writing. I wanted to develop my own skills as a theatre maker. So I don't currently have an agent and I spend loads of time trying to decide whether or not I need one. It's a personal choice really. There's no doubt that having an agent can help you get your foot in the door. It can help you meet people, and it's like having somebody on your side who will help to sell you to a third party. At the moment, I'm really fortunate in that I've never needed one. I've always had work, but interestingly enough, I am considering it again now. In the current situation, it's really difficult to think about what opportunities there will be for graduates moving out into the industry, because we live in these sort of uncertain times of not really knowing what the industry is going to look like. Obviously at Theatre Workshop we're always looking to work with new people, new actors, new writers, new theatre makers, so it's always worth sending your CV and an expression of interest to Theatre Workshop. And then obviously Manchester has usually quite a vibrant theatre scene in terms of the fringe theatre. And I think in those early stages of your career, it's just really important to meet people and to get seen and to work with as many people as you can. This is sort of my best and worst experience rolled into one. So when I was at Central, I wrote my first full-length play and it was accepted for the National Student Drama Festival in Scarborough. So off we went to Scarborough, really excited. I thought, this is it, I've made it, I'm a playwright. And the way that the festival worked was that your piece would be performed and then the next day there would be a huge discussion where people could ask questions and give their critique of your work. And basically it got absolutely annihilated. I mean, people hated it and really were very personally angry with me about some of the things in this play. And it was awful. It was really shocking and quite difficult to deal with back then. But when I look back on it now, I realise that it was so important that I had that experience early on in my career, that you're never going to please everybody and that it doesn't really matter what other people think. I have learned and continue to learn so much stuff from my role at Theatre Workshop. If I look at some of the writing that I did 10, 15 years ago, in comparison to some of the things that I'm writing now, there just is no comparison. I've learned about structure, I've learned about story, I've learned about how to write dialogue, how to develop characters, I've learned how to work with actors in the room, how to get the best out of them in terms of creating material that I can then take away and develop into script. I mean, I really have been very fortunate to have been able to use that experience to basically learn my craft. It's always difficult when people ask you about your process. I've sort of got two processes. One, my favourite way of working really is in the room with a group of performers and starting with some ideas, and we might develop those ideas through improvisation and play and some scene making and sort of unpicking then the really nice ideas that develop out of that and refining them, etc, etc. And then I might go away and begin to write some script, and then I might bring that script back in the room and that we might sort of develop that further. But obviously there are situations where I am given a very, very specific brief. You know, we need you to write a piece about this and this is the messages it must get across to the audience. And sometimes my process is that. It's taking that brief and translating that into hopefully a well-written, exciting and engaging piece of script that can become an amazing piece of theatre. I think the way to keep getting new work is to meet new people, express interest. You know, it's never a problem to write a really nice personal email or letter expressing your interest in working with somebody or a theatre company or a particular producer, and sending that to them. Even if you don't hear back anything immediately, it sort of placed you under their radar. And really that's a lot of what this industry is about sort of those lucky moments where your email might be the one that lands on the day when they are looking for somebody new or they're thinking about a particular project. So a lot of it is about making a lot of time and effort to try and contact people. I think, like most people, I sometimes find public interactions something that I'm really fine with, and sometimes I sort of really dread them. New meetings with new people where you're trying to pitch an idea, those things can feel kind of quite stressful. What I would say is that really it's about trying to be yourself. Often it's yourself you're selling. You might have the best idea in the world, but if the people that you meet don't feel like they could engage with you positively, then they're not going to want to work with you, because the reality of the industry is there's 1,000 other people who also have brilliant ideas. So quite often it's you that they're interested in and whether or not you could have a really positive working relationship. One piece of advice for people wanting to work in the performance industry is be patient and resilient. We all sort of come out of our training sort of believing so much that it's going to happen immediately for us, and for some people it does, and that's fantastic and they're really fortunate. But for a lot of people, this is the beginning of a road of really hard work and dedication to get yourself in front of the right people at the right time to form those significant connections that can move your career forward. And that does take time. So don't give up, be patient and keep going, and be realistic that it could take you some time, but it'll be worth it in the end. My top tips for being professional are pretty straightforward, really. The main one would be nice, be a nice person to work with, be positive, be engaged, be interested, want to learn new things, try and take something positive from every experience you have, even the challenging ones. And then there are other obvious things like try to be on time. You know, if you're going to be late, communicate that with somebody. People honestly don't mind if you're stuck in a traffic jam as long as you communicate it. So it's about getting those basic things right, really, as sort of standard practice. Okay, so top tips for getting your first job. Be positive, believe in yourself, have a really good CV and covering letter. When you contact people, try to make sure that you know who you're contacting so that you can make your interaction personal. And for goodness sake, make sure you know, if you're, for example, contacting a theatre company, make sure that you've done your research and you know exactly the sort of work that they do and the sort of people that they might be looking for. What's sort of been interesting about my journey is that I've been writing for a really long time and making theatre for a long time. But there's been a real change in terms of what's happened in my career just in the last 12 months. So I suppose that's sort of might be useful for some people to hear that it isn't actually ever too late. You know, I'm in my 40s now and wrote a play last year that went to the Edinburgh Festival, that won a Bobby Award for Best at the Fringe. And that really got me noticed by people at BBC Writers' Room, who then asked me to apply for the Northern Voices 2020, which I then got accepted for. And who knows whether it'll lead to anything. I'm quite realistic about these things, but I do believe that, you know, it's an opportunity that I'm going to take and I'm going to grasp with both hands, and we'll see where it goes. But certainly it's never too late for those sort of opportunities to come up that could take your career off in a different direction or to the next level. The hardest part of my job is that when you actually sit down to write, you're on your own and it's quite lonely. and there are times where you stare at the screen for hours on end and it feels like you're incapable of writing anything. And that can be really difficult. You know, the getting started as a writer is sometimes very, very challenging. The best things about my job are, well, there's loads actually. The biggest one is probably that I love what I do. And certainly at my age, so many of my friends have jobs that they don't love, that you know they might enjoy a bit, but they don't really fire up their soul. And working in the creative industries, there's so much variety. You're working with incredibly interesting, talented people. It's different every day. It's exciting. It's rewarding. Most of the people that work in the industry absolutely love it because they wouldn't do it if they didn't. So, yeah, there's loads of brilliant things about it. I mean, the truth is, I still love drama now as much as I did when I was 12 in the drama studio at Bramwell High School. I feel exactly the same way about it now, and I feel really lucky that I'm still a bit in love with drama.